Um, okay, class. Today we are on segregatory laws and the topic apartheid South Africa. Apartheid South Africa. Now we are on page 236. Please open page 236. Right. Okay. Now we have like 4 subheadings under segregatory laws, as you all can see down on your book. Right. So this is a major segregatory legislation. Major segregatory legislation. Yes. We have territorial segregation. We have residential segregation. We have segregation of political rights. We have segregation at the workplace. Right. Under territorial segregation, we have the Land Act of 1913, the Native Trust and Land Act of 1936. Under residential segregation, we have the Urban Areas Native Pass Act of 1923. We have the Urban Areas Act of 1923. Moving on to segregation of political rights, we have the Native Representation Act of 1936, the Native Trust and Land Act of 1936, the Native Laws Amendment Act of 1937. Moving on to the next subheading, which is segregation at the workplace, we have the Mines and Works Act of 1911, the Industrial Conciliation Act of 1924, the Wages Act of 1925, the Mines and Works Amendment Act of 1937. Now let us look at some of the details of the major segregatory legislation. The Mines and Works Amendment Act reserved skilled jobs on the mines for whites. So the provision of skills was reserved only for white people. If you're black, you were never given skills. You were never gonna, Hence, this act buried blacks from doing skilled jobs. Exactly my point. What I just said now. So if you're black, you were not doing a skilled job. It's more like you're doing a general work, right? Whites who have approved of the passing of this act, as they may have felt that blacks could be employed in their places for a lower wage. This is exploitation of labor. You're exploited, right? You're doing huge amount of work, but for a lower wage. That is exploitation. 1913, sorry. Which is, we have now what? The Native Land Act was regarded as one of the first formal acts of segregation in the Union of South Africa. This act sets aside reserves for African occupation, and Africans were not allowed to buy land outside these areas. You can only buy land in the slums, rural areas. Those places whereby more like in urban areas, you cannot buy them. Even today we can see that we got places like La Lucia, places like Palito, all the places that are along the coast, which are more like attractive and stuff. Like blacks are not allowed to buy those places and like have ownership to them. Right? The white areas consisted of 93% of the country. By the stroke of a pen, thousands of black families were left homeless. The Native Affairs Act created the establishment of a system of tribal district councils, which were appointed by the government for the separate political representation of Africans. So within the tribes, we were also divided. Right? Moving on. to the last one. The Urban Areas Act established segregated locations where Africans had to live. Alright? So if you're black, you're sent back there, back. It's not like people occupy those areas or those certain places by choice. But then because of apartheid segregatory laws, they were pushed back into farms, places with like a very, very poor standard of living, right? This act also recognized the need for African accommodation in urban areas. The Industrial Conciliation Act set up industrial conciliations where unions, trade pool, negotiate with employers. However, Africans were excluded from membership of trade unions. They had no slots in trade relations. So we are wrapping it up there for today, class. See you next time. Thank you. Go study further. See you next time.